Hello, everyone, and welcome to The End Is.
Sigh. That's how we used to do it. Holy
Exactly.
shit.
I was seeing if Todd would remember.
Oh, well, yeah, when you cue me up like that.
I'm Nate, and you are.
I'm Todd.
I was trying to go for a
Oh.
flubless entry, unlike our last episode, but when Todd's
I
here.
talked I talked over you immediately.
Yep.
I'm trying to look for visual cues, but to be honest, listeners, we're doing this remotely, so sometimes it gets choppy, and I'm like, "Oh, he stopped talking." Nope, it just froze, and then he's talking. Once I hear it, I'm like, "Shit, I'm talking."
It's a new world for us.
Um, yeah, welcome to the
Oh.
show. We're going to do the movie review. So, this is the podcast where we review movies. Sometimes they're underrated, sometimes they're overrated, sometimes they are just rated perfectly fine. And then we also talk about the topics and themes we find within them. We used to do it, just we're going to explain this a little bit for the first few episodes back. We did like 70 episodes a few years ago, and now we're getting back into it. And so, we used to do talk about the movie, talk about the themes, one big episode. Now we're going to talk about the movie, and then next episode we'll talk about the themes we found in it. Then we'll talk about a new movie, and it'll go on from there. So that's how this pod's going to be working from
So
here
if you
on
want to
out.
listen to just the movie review, you stick around for this one. If you want to listen about what bullshit we might have found on the internet for our topics, you listen to the next one.
And I say you listen to both of them and all of them, and you like and you comment and you subscribe and you hit that notification button. This is all YouTube stuff I've heard. But before you do all that, Nate, tell them, why are we the end is Psy? Hey there, Todd popping in, hopefully just one more time to say that I have good and bad news. And the bad news is what you already know, and that the audio on this recording is still not great because of some connectivity feature issues. And the good news, next episode should be fine. I've listened to it and it sounds good. And I think we, as in me, as in Todd, figured out the issue and that the audio is now fixed for the next one. So it's just the normal bad audio. And by that, I mean myself talking and general gibberish and stuff. But other than that, I just wanted to say thanks for bearing with us, and hopefully it's smooth sailing from here on out. Okay, bye.
We are the Endless Sigh because we don't know how the world's going to end. It's all just
It's
going to
always
end in
so
a sigh,
dark.
possibly.
Yeah,
I know.
guys, we're realists, and we're just making meaning out of the meantime. I think Nate coined that years ago. I think that was his thing, and we just have a good time talking about movies and topics and general bullshit. And I hope you enjoy going with us on this journey. And the first journey is more like a flight, because what is the movie this week, Nathaniel?
This week's movie is 1986's Flight of the Navigator.
It is a childhood favorite of mine. And Nate, this was your first time watching Flight of the Navigator.
It was my first time, and I got to know, is
Yeah.
this a movie that belongs in your childhood, or do you feel like it's good to go back into it as an adult?
Whew. That is a two-pronged answer, okay? I believe half this movie should stay in the childhood. It's a duality of a movie, and I think half of it resonates as an adult, I think, as well. So I think like the movie has a distinct cut. I think the first half is very serious, and the second half gets very like Disney Channel movie or Disney
Yep.
Channel just TV show. Like once you actually get to the navigating part, it becomes a real fantasy, high fun, laughter, like cheesiness, like kids movie. But the first half is actually quite eerie and introspective and like, oh shit. And like as a kid, you're like, this is fucking me up a bit. But yeah, so I watched this. I was only I was 2 years old when this came out. Okay, just to put it all out there. I was two, but once I was a little bit older and watched it, this stuck with me forever, and it's always I just rebought it on Blu-ray. But yeah, it's a classic. So I that's why I suggested we watch this movie to come back. It's also a bit of a softball for you to come back into the reviews with. Like it's not like we're not dissecting some gigantic space opera with all these deep themes. Like we're not doing Dune or some shit, you know? So,
I don't know if I'd ever want to do Dune on here. Just forewarn you.
no, I don't want to do Dune on here. I'm saying we're not doing Dune on here.
Cool.
Just saying
I'm
it's
just
not
checking,
Dune.
I don't want the listeners to get hope up like, oh, they're going to do Dune. No.
I mean, if every single one of you reaches out and says you won't do Dune, we'll do Dune. But otherwise, we ain't doing Dune. So what are your initial thoughts on the movie before we get into the plot?
I think it's definitely one of those movies you got to go in with the mindset of a child. Just because it is very curated towards children, which isn't a bad thing by any means. There's definitely some good points in here that they kind of touch base on. But for the most part, at the end of it, I was like, okay, yeah, I mean, it was good. I don't have that attachment watching it as a kid like you do.
Yep. Yeah, nostalgia.
So that's where I think it falls flat for me in a sense.
That's fair. See, this is different from the first time we did 70 episodes where we went in with like, we're both probably going to like the movies we watch. Now it's going to be a real gamble on how each of us feels about the movie going into it. But that's totally fair. I totally get it. Rewatching it, I was like, ooh, because I'm watching it under the lens of you watching it for the first time. And I'm like, uh-oh, this is a part I forgot. Or I thought they navigated for way longer. It was like an afternoon. I could have sworn they were navigating for years. But anyway, so yes, to get into the background, the general plot is David Freeman, a 12-year-old boy, is abducted by an alien spaceship who, as an unfortunate side effect, is transported 8 years into the future. And I kind of read that choppy, but David Freeman is basically transported 8 years into the future, but as the exact state he left in. So for him, it was a few seconds. For the rest of the world, it was 8 years. So that's where that deep kind of like weird, eerie piece comes to it, where you really kind of question like how you would react in that situation. It was directed by Randall Kleiser, who is in a league of his own with people. Like he was in classes growing up with George Lucas, John Carpenter. Before this, he directed Grease. So I mean, shit, he has Grease under his belt. Like that's a big movie to have there. And he also did The Blue Lagoon. He did Big Top Pee-wee. Spoiler alert, because Pee-wee is one of the voices of Max in here. White Fang, Honey, I Blew Up the Kid. So he did like a good run for Disney movies. And
can you guess out of those movies which one I have seen?
Honey, I Blew Up the Kid.
Yep, that's the only one I've seen out of those.
I kind of knew that when I said The Blue Lagoon. I was like, he's not going to have any idea what that one is for sure. But Big Top Pee-wee, at least you know it's a Pee-wee movie. White Fang is a classic story. And then Grease, you know what Grease is. So that's not, right? You know what Grease is, right?
Yeah, I know what Grease is.
Okay. I have to make sure. I don't know with you sometimes.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean,
but it was written.
I don't know.
There's a lot of movies you don't know, and to be fair, there's a lot of movies I don't know from the new like age of movies. But anywho, back to the breakdown. We've got the writer is Mark H. Baker, who this was his very first screenplay, and it came from a dream he had. If that helps you wrap your mind around this movie's looseness. It was originally called Vanished with a period. So I think that implies it was a much darker version of it as well. It focused more on him being gone. But yeah, so it stars Joey Kramer as David Scott Freeman, Veronica Cartwright as Helen Freeman, Cliff DeYoung is Bill Freeman, and then you have, the brother, Matt Adler, plays Jeff, the younger brother, Albie Whitaker, and then it stars Sarah Jessica Parker as Carolyn McAdams, so very early role for her, as well as Paul Rubens is a standout. I said that already. That is he's tagged as Paul Mall, but that is Pee-wee in this movie. So when you see Paul Mall, it's like Paul Rubens isn't in this. Yeah, he is. He's just going by a different name at that point. But yeah,
all right,
that is the intro to this movie, everybody. And we're going to do our best to break down this. I think it's just an hour, 29 minutes. Like, it's actually a pretty quick clip.
It is very quick.
Yeah, and I actually, spoiler for any of this, I watched Life After the Navigator. I watched a documentary about Joey Kramer, who played David Freeman, and his life after this movie came out. And kind of details like the background of how this movie was made and the stuff he went through after it came out and everything like that. Because before we even get in, I think Joey Kramer, the kid who played David, was really good. Like, I think he like nailed that shit. Like, for as cheesy as a movie it is, I think like he's a good actor, a good child actor.
Yeah, for the time, I mean, child actors, I feel, have come a far way from 1986 to how they are now.
Yep.
And I think he did a good job for what it was back in the day of what he was working with.
Yeah, I mean, it's especially going against like one of the first CGI type creations and stuff like that, and like trying to deal with this spaceship, which they used practical effects and the burgeoning work of like reflective mapping and stuff. It's really cool. But anyway, yeah, he worked against a lot of like like big sets and big like ideas, and I think he just, I don't know, even when he's like crying in certain scenes, it's like this kid can fucking act, man. But so getting into the movie review, I think we usually do like a drop here, dun, 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 or something like that. I don't even remember, but maybe I'll drop it in. If you guys hear it, I dropped it in. If not, well, sure shit didn't. There was something we do.
It was the Terminator. Dun, 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 dun.
Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, wasn't it? Okay.
Yeah,
well, if you heard it,
so.
Todd remembered. Okay, so it starts on 4th of July, 1978 in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, where 12-year-old David Freeman is going through the woods to pick up his 8-year-old brother Jeff from a friend's house when he falls into a ravine because of a trick played on him by his brother. He basically falls into the ravine and passes out immediately. Like, he hits his head and is just donezo. So getting up to that point, what was kind of your first thoughts?
It's definitely it's different times. You know, he goes in and realize like, it's just more his parents let him just go through the woods to pick up his brother on his own.
Yes.
No issue whatsoever. It's not, hey, we'll just go with you. It's, nah, you're fine on your own.
Yep.
I don't know how far that trek is, but it made it seem like a far trek.
It's, dude, that forest like location has stuck in my brain honestly since I was a child. Like, it's been stuck in there. Like, I can picture that thing clear as when I was rewatching. I was like, yep, that's exactly how I remember it. This creepy fog forest, and he walks across the train tracks, and it's like, how big is this backyard? They're like in the middle of these woods in Florida somehow. I guess there's definitely grassy and swampy areas, but like this seems like a forest, and then to go like as far as he did to like a ravine, and then it just, I don't know, it was the journey of just him just getting fucking scared and lost, and I just remember how creepy that kind of set was. But I'd be remiss if I didn't discuss real quick the longest dog frisbee montage I've ever seen in my life that starts this movie.
It is one of those where, yes, it's a long montage, but they did a small like payoff for it when he goes to the future.
Yeah, no, that's true. It is. There is a payoff, but I mean, that was like 5 minutes of dogs catching frisbees. I was like, and the thing is, like, they keep like doing a bait and switch. So there's like, it looks like a flying saucer at first, and then the dog catches. You're like, oh, it's a frisbee. Okay, cool, that's fun. They do so many bait and switches, and at the end of that frisbee thing, they all get up and everybody stops and looks up at the sky, and you're like, oh shit, the UFO's here, and it's a blimp, and you're like, oh shit, okay, that's another. They fucking got us again. Okay, they keep teasing that you're gonna see this UFO.
Yeah, there's a lot of that, but I think it's also a testament, like I said, old movies. The intros were always so long on older movies.
Yes. Yeah.
Because it always was like, oh, let's put the cast at the beginning, which I don't mind at all, but it was very long and drawn out of whatever they were doing at that moment, whether it was the dog frisbee or if it's just kids playing baseball, who knows what it is. It's just drawn out forever.
Yeah, I feel like they had so much dog footage that they just kept casting people so they could put names at the beginning. They're like, this is just going to be dead space. We got to cast somebody so we can add like some role here in the background so we can get this other dog footage in there. We got too much good dog footage.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, so David's going across, and he's got like, I don't know, he's got a very 80s, obviously everything's 80s vibe, like late 70s, early 80s. His outfit and hair, that's me. Okay, just picture me. I look like David as a child. That was me in the like the polos, like the old 80s outfit, and then the wavy hair. That was my aesthetic. I feel like I grew up being like, I'm gonna be David. I'm gonna live that, and I'm gonna go be on a UFO. And I think, that maybe explains a few things.
I could definitely see that. You styling after David, yeah. It fits.
He's got good style. There's just no better role model. And then, yeah. So to your point, when they're like, yeah, the kid can just run off. They quote, "He's 8. He can walk on his own after dark." Like, like what? But yeah. So the little brother jumps out and scares him before he knocks his head. And he's like, the classic '80s lines of the names they call each other. One of them, we cannot repeat today. It's a hard. Nope, it's not. That's the other one. There's the R word. Let's say that he yells at him, and you're like, oh, but at the time, I didn't think twice about it. I don't think my parents thought twice about it. Like no one even questioned that he called him that. But he says like, "Get back, Jack! I've got a gun," and I'm like, I want to do that if anybody ever threatens me. But I actually in 2025, I don't know if I want to yell that I have got a gun, but yeah. So he wakes up in the ravine and immediately gets up and then goes back to his house. But he gets there, door's not opening, and then an old lady answers the door. And this is a very creepy scene in my mind.
It is. It's very much, hey, where are my parents? What's going on? And he goes into the house like no care in the world. As I figured, probably it makes sense, actually. A kid would have like, what the fuck is going on? I need to look in here. If you know this is your house. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, no luck finding his parents or anything, and eventually figures it out.
Well, yeah, because the old man, he goes up and he opens the door of the room, and the old guy's just saying, he's like, he just turns around and goes, "What's the problem, son?" And you're like, this is a fucking murder-suicide house. Like, what is happening in this thing? This kid's gonna get the fuck out of here, because the dad doesn't even question. He's just like, what's the problem? They walk down there talking to him. Dude, if somebody was in your house randomly, you wouldn't just be like, oh, hey, how's it going? What's going on? You'd be like, get the fuck out of here. Like, I don't know. I don't think that was a product of the time. I think it's a product of a weird couple living in the middle of these woods. But this is obviously the second timeline. So
yes.
We cut to an alien spaceship that is crashed into a bunch of power lines. And right on the scene is NASA. For at the time, in the 80s, NASA was like in charge of everything in the whole world, apparently. Like they were the cops, they were the judge, jury, they were everything. They were the Gestapo in America. Like they could do anything they wanted and cover up whatever. And like, he's like, there was only one guy on shift. I think he's the only one that saw it. There are power lines fucking down in this giant field with like 100 people. And they're like, well, this one employee saw it, so I think we're good. We'll keep this under wraps. Like, all right, 80s movie.
You got to suspend that disbelief with those older movies, even movies nowadays, actually. Yeah, stuff just like, it's fine. It's a movie. It's just going to make sense. It's a good coincidence.
Yeah, I mean, I try to give them the benefit of the doubt. It's hard to do that this day and age because movies have come such a long way that it's harder to forgive like a jump in logic. Back in the day, you're like, oh yeah, I just made it up in my head that they did whatever in between A to B. But this, you need to see A1, A2, A3, A4, A5, A6 to B. Like, you have to know that they got there logically. Otherwise, you're like, oh, that doesn't make any sense. Like that, how did they do that? I don't know. I think movie making is really, it's gotten so sophisticated that you can't assume the audience wants to just make up the in-between moments. But it's a topic for a different day, I think. Then we get to the scene where, so David obviously is picked up by the police and he's taken back to a different house where his parents now live with their brother, with his now older brother, Jeff, who he was declared dead. And we find that out at the police station, and he's been missing and declared dead or whatever for 8 years. And this kind of reunion was like, I don't even today watching, it was really well done. Like, just as this family, like, what would you do if all of a sudden your kid who you thought died 8 years ago came back and looked exactly the same? Like, that's a mind fuck.
It really is. I can't imagine it. Just to see that, like, oh, okay, I have all this time back. It's one of those of, you're glad he's back. You're weirded out because he's young, but at the same time, it's like, oh, I still have his youth. I can still grow up with him. Like, I lost time, but he hasn't, in a sense.
Yeah. I guess you're relieved because he's still young enough to like still be your son. Like, nothing changed for you. Yeah. I mean, well, then I made a specific note, like, because every time I see Jeff, standing at like the door in the hospital, like when the parents leave to go talk to the police or whatever. That's like such a big moment for me of just like that realization where his younger brother is now his older brother and how that affects them. I think that's the real relationship. Like the parents one is obviously there, but I think the real story here is between the brother and him, and kind of like they used to pick on each other and fight. Now it's like, hey man, I know it's weird for you, and it's such a weird as a kid even seeing this, being like, what would that be like to all of a sudden have somebody like that's your peer be way older than you and have to like take on this like parental figure or have to like rationalize that because he's got to be going nuts too. I mean, his younger brother died, and then all of a sudden he's back, and now he has to like treat him like he's raising him almost in a bit to like make him feel better about himself.
Yeah, and it's one of those where this is where that payoff was earlier. We're talking about the dog frisbee moment, and with that dog frisbee moment, as a kid, David was like, "Oh, one day you'll be that frisbee dog catching the frisbee," and then later on, you see his younger, now older brother playing with the dog catching the frisbee. And having that moment of like, oh, I lost my brother. Let's try to make something of this.
No, that's a good call. And just being gone, but coming back the same age 8 years later is a movie by itself. But this is also a UFO escape Navigator movie. So it's like one alone was a plot on either end. But they said, let's put them together. So this is where you get like two movies shoved into one, even though I don't think that was the original intent or mistake.
Remember, this was all based off a dream, and on top of it, it went through Disney, so you have that dark undertone to begin with, but they're like, we got to lift it up towards the end.
They do mention in the Life After the Navigator that Disney, there was there was a specific thing they had them cut out because they didn't want it to be as dark as it could have been. Oh, that's a spoiler. I'll get to that. I'll get to that in a little bit here. I'll tell you what. I just remembered what they made them change. But what I put at the very beginning. Remember, I said in quotes. Did I say that? Did I even say that out loud? It's produced by Disney. I don't think I said that, guys. It's in my notes, but I did it in my head. So it's a Disney movie in quotes, and I say that because Disney just picked up the distribution rights. They didn't make this fucking movie. This movie was already done before they got their hands on it. They just needed to make sure it fit the Disney kind of aesthetic. So they had some, input into what they changed and stuff before they actually released it. But this wasn't written for a Disney movie. This just happened to be, I think it was called Second Sight, the production company. They did that, and it was like, hey, we need somebody to take this, and Disney was up for it. So it's like, what better thing at the time than to get Disney behind your name? So yeah, so we'll get to that in a second. The part that they made them change is pretty good. They basically realized that David is getting telepathic messages from the UFO, and his brain can actually show stuff on the screen as digital like code and shit. Like he's talking to the computers.
Yeah, now there's the point of, why is it doing this? What's happening? What's going on? Like that very freaking out moment. And is that me? Is it me that's talking through my brain? Like it's just very confusing for him to sit through that moment and be under a microscope.
Yeah, they're all like in that room, and he's like wired up, but he projects the image of the UFO on the screen. So there's like two different groups. The medical lab is realizing all this, while the NASA team has brought the UFO that floats. Like it can be pushed around. It's almost like as light as a balloon. You can just move it around. It is now in their like facility, just strapped down, and they're like, we can't open it. This thing has no seams. You just can't fuck with it. Like there's nothing we can do. And then they realize that this kid has projected that image onto a computer, and they're like, well, shit, these are connected. And then you can tell that David is getting like help me messages from the UFO. And so, the plot thickens, as they say. So we get to this NASA thing, and he's getting tested on. They allowed him to stay for a day, which I don't know why the parents didn't get to go. Why? You just got your kid back. Well, I just hit all the equipment. Did you hear that? Hopefully not. But they got their kid back after 8 years. He's exactly the same. And then they're like, can we take him for a day? And he's like, yeah, sure. What? You wouldn't let this kid out of your fucking sight, man. You would never let him leave your sight. You would be a helicopter parent left and right with this kid.
Well, 100%. You've lost part of your life, but almost a whole life with your kid. And on top of it, I'm surprised, though. Usually these movies I always see is, oh, we're going to take your kid without your consent, but they kind of almost have that consent of, oh, well, only if David's okay with it, you guys can go ahead and take him into NASA.
But
It's
I'd be like, we
not.
don't even know if David's an alien.
No.
I would be like, what happened to my kid?
The parents can feel it in their heart. They're like, that's my kid.
So you get so anyway, back to NASA. You get introduced to 3 acronyms: SJP, Sarah Jessica Parker, which I typed in Yowzer because, man, I'm sure I had a crush on her when I saw this movie. There ain't no way I didn't. Ralph, which is way ahead of its time. It's almost like a Uber's robot that drives food around, basically, without a human involved in it. But yeah, so it's like highly classified, hide this kid. And then, by the way, here's Sarah Jessica Parker that just blows up everything. She's just like, oh, yeah, by the way, aren't you this kid? And, oh, yeah, I don't think they're going to let you do this because I just saw this. And you're like, what the fuck kind of failure in your system happened here?
Yeah, no, it's definitely surprising. I mean, she comes down through as like a great character of like, all right, I have a heart. I'm going to get you the hell out of here.
Yeah, she's like an immediate ally for him. And like then she goes and like helps the family a little bit later. But so then Sarah Jessica Parker tells him that, so he's like, I need to sneak out of here, and immediately, of course, just hops into the kid-sized Ralph machine, and it just takes him away. And then we get this long-ass montage of a robot taking him from one building to the other, where it almost seems like it was a Lord of the Rings journey to Mordor for this fucking thing.
Well, Todd, what was it earlier you're saying that movies back in the day didn't explain how they got from part A to part B? Well, guess what? They just explained to you.
Touche. They over-explained Ralph with like sunsets, and like he kept going by a bunch of different security people that would look at him, open the doors for him. Then another would open up, and you're like, dude, this thing could get away with murder. You could have freaking nuclear bombs in this thing and just drive it onto NASA and be fine.
And it's just David's eyes staring out of the square part, like, okay, where are we going now?
Yeah, and they're like, yeah, that's probably all fine. Should we check what's inside this thing? No. Is it supposed to be here? No. But apparently, David's talking to it through his his technology brain and having it drive itself to the UFO where Max, the computer basically in the UFO, is talking to him. And so he gets there, and then we get to see what this fucking UFO was all about, and I think it was really cool for its time.
Yeah, no, it looked great. It was definitely amazing. I think the biggest thing for me was, I was definitely wondering, all right, what's it going to look like? How do they depict the inside of this UFO? And my God, shiny and chrome. The amount of work that they had to put in that to make sure probably every surface was clean, don't have any fingerprints or anything, was a choice, I think, in this movie. And it looked great and it paid off, but the amount of work is got to be incredible for that.
And so it's basically like a big metal or like liquid mercury blob, so it can like transform to anything. And so before he even gets in the ship, the stairs basically transform from the ship. The ship like opens a big hole, and then the steps come out like individual ones down to the ground so that you can walk up. And I think for that time, like that was big CGI for the day. Like that was the most impressive part. You're like, holy shit, this thing is amorphous, I think is the word. I don't know if I'm using that correctly, but it can like change shape, and it can create whatever the hell you want. And that's really smart design, even for, an original UFO. And the guy that created this actually had like sketches like out the ass for this. So that was really cool to see all the people like behind the scenes of creating this thing. But anyway, so the stairs going up was really a real magic, quote unquote, real magic, where they had a real practical solution, and it's just camera angle. So like if you're looking at the stairs from the left side, there's on the other side of the stairs are metal rods going off into the distance that are just at the right angle. So it looks like they're floating, and you can still stand on them, and they can give they can wiggle. They definitely look real. They don't look CGI because they're really there. But they also still have that supernatural element because they're like disconnected and floating. So it was really cool to see. They just went back to a pure magician to be like, how would we fake this? And they're like, here you go. It's all angles, baby. And the same thing happens later with like the actual spaceship itself on like a crane being taken places, and you just film it from a certain angle and it looks like it's floating in the sky. And so I think that's just genius. But
it's really smart filmmaking. Just what can we do? How do we fool the eye in a sense without doing all the CGI that people put into movies nowadays.
Yeah, and so this is where you're really introduced to the other main character of the movie, and that is Max. And I should have written down what Max stood for, but I didn't. and, um, but I remember this was an iconic character for obviously people that grew up in that time and watched this movie because it was very new for its time. Like Max, the like swivel head robot with like the big dome eye was all practical. There's really people like moving it around, so it's physically in that space with David. And it doesn't start as Pee-wee, but it definitely gets there. But it starts as like just kind of like a hello, David, like, you know, I need your help.
So yeah, with Max, the way they did him in the movie was great because whoever the puppeteers or whatever they were did an incredible job of making him feel so lifelike, so real, and just very fluent movement for what you'd expect to be an alien ship.
Yeah, and they only had he has like 2 panels or something like that on its dome face, so there's hardly any way to like make it show emotion, but they actually pulled it off by like drooping it down or making it go wide real quick to like show kind of reactions by pulling it back. Like it was very, very smart. It was like a 2-person jib, and they had people up above running like left and right and forward and back, and so it was like a huge team trying to get the stuff to like actually look like it's actually happening. And I think that's that classic movie magic you don't get too often outside of, you know, Guillermo del Toro and stuff like that. Even though they start to lean heavily on like CGI, you don't get like some people are still really doing that practical effect stuff that really makes a difference, honestly.
Yeah. So, and then also you were saying this was the introduction of Max, but you know, Pee Wee Herman, and the first introduction of him, you're like, that's not Pee Wee Herman. I don't know what you're talking about. It threw me off because, you know, I did see a little bit of the notes in where you're like, oh, Pee Wee Herman is the voice. And so I was like, that's not him, right? That's not him. Until later you get actual Pee Wee Herman to come out.
Yeah. Eventually there's a mind meld, which kind of gets you into that kids movie portion of it where he basically takes on the information of a 12-year-old boy, which throws out apparently a lot of its normal logic. I don't know if he's got that plus that, but it feels like he almost replaced a bunch of it with that. But then he's like, "Oh, this kid likes Pee Wee Herman." Ha ha! Oh, gee, I just think that was Mickey Mouse. But he does the whole.
Is it that?
Yeah. So he does a whole thing of like Pee Wee Herman shtick, and they were like that he would be the perfect person for this. And it's. I mean, I think he's great in it, and the laugh that he has, the one I attempted and failed. But he's got the humor of a teen, and it just, I don't know, it just makes the movie change a lot.
Do you want a second go at that laugh? You know, maybe, you know, a little prep time for this, you know, another chance.
Like, do it now?
Yeah.
No, because it's still going to be Mickey Mouse. Haha, no, that's closer. It's not great.
No, that was closer.
Okay, I don't have Pee-wee's voice, but he's he is one of the many characters that shows up in this part because Max is showing David around the ship. And so I was saying earlier, practical effects, that chair actually comes out of the ground as well. Everything exists in that space. None of that was, CGI. None of that was faked.
That chair looks so uncomfortable though. Like it's crazy absolutely. And it's awesome. But my God, I couldn't imagine like sitting in that for probably 15 minutes. That's going to be a new podcast chair, so let's get real uncomfortable.
More uncomfortable than us trying to do this remotely, guys. We are having technical issues, so if there's any hiccups, just know we are doing our best, and they will be resolved as the time goes on. But right now, they are metal chairs in the middle of a spaceship made out of mercury. All right? This is what we're working with on the pod. But like I was saying, that he's the only one of the characters because Max opens up a side panel. And again, all practical effects, they're all really there, are these like cabinet of curiosities of these creatures. And I think these are creepier and cooler than anything they introduced in Alien Earth.
I mean, yeah, pretty much from what you're saying, they're unique and interesting and intriguing enough to be like, okay, what's going on with that? Rather than a giant egg sack that has a tentacle come out of it.
Yes, that's our dig on Alien Earth. If we had been recording this pod when that was out, we would have had a lot to say about that one. Great start, horrible finish. But I think we're not in the minority on that, so it's not really like a hot take. To go to the cabinet of creatures, we'll call them, they are both creepy and dangerous. They look like, Henson Muppet kind of effects, but they were all created from like people's sketches. And obviously the thing that grabs his hat is just a dude's hand in there. You can tell that one.
Do you think what part of the dream was this for him? That's what I want to know, because now that like I never knew this into the movie that it was based off a dream that he had. What part of the dream where this happened?
You mean the writer of the movie?
Yes, the writer of the movie.
I'm gonna say, because none of this is like a dream in the movie. Don't get us twisted, folks.
No,
this actually quote unquote happens in the movie. But yes, the writer. Where he thinks about these creatures. I don't know if everything was. I think maybe it was just inspired by his dream that there was a UFO that like needed its navigator. I don't think every little bit was. Otherwise, we've got some problems. Because specifically, there's the eye, the giant eye that just says I the whole time. I like to call him the goat, not because he looks like a goat, because he's the greatest of all time. Is the little guy. I can never remember his name, but he was obviously he was way before you had Grogu and the little marshmallow guys. Like he was the first little creature that was recognizable as cool.
Yeah, but to me, it's just crazy the amount of detail in such a tiny creature and like the puppetry work. However that works, I don't know, but I want to keep it that magic of like I don't know. It's incredible.
Yeah, no, and just seeing the behind. I mean, I think everybody should watch the documentary. It's really good because they kind of go into like how they, not a ton of it, but like they kind of touch upon it. It shows the two guys that were in control of a lot of the movements, or that played Max, or that voiced certain things and all this stuff. And they created that creature. And there's on Blu-ray you can see the strings moving the little creature's hands on some of this, even though when you watch it in the original VHS and stuff, you ain't noticing any of that. And that's just a product of, advancement in technology. But I was saying, what I teased earlier is Disney had them change one of the creatures and its origin. Which one do you think that was?
Oh gosh, I don't know, honestly.
The one that has a cold. Originally, that was a sex creature, and that was supposed to be... So, Nate, explain what this sneezing cold one looked like.
I'm trying to remember, honestly. The scene seems so quick for me. I can't. I feel like I need to actually look it up.
Let me refresh. Yeah, if you want to Google that, but it is the worm creature covered in white slime. A concoction that it said he has a cold and it like sneezes. That's why it's all this white slime that was sticky and gross, and it was made from lotion and KY jelly. That's the actual mixture that created that for the creators, and it was supposed to be a sex creature, and they went, no, this is going to be a kids movie. We needed to have a cold. So it is basically, mother turn off the pod. Basically just like a living polyped dick with jizz everywhere. Let's be honest.
Someone just decided to have fun at Disney.
Oh God, dude. But that's why it's like, yeah, this definitely wasn't made by Disney at first. They just got their hands on it and said, no, we're gonna need to change that one up. So that was my fun little tidbit behind that thing. But so yeah, now we get back to the main thrust of the story. And why is Max searching for David this whole time? Why do they do the mind meld where he basically learns what David has in his head?
It's pretty much he becomes the Navigator. He's been charting the stars in a sense, and for some reason it got mixed up into David's brain.
Yeah, so he was like they usually take people, so each one of these creatures in the side is taken from different planets. They just happen to take David from Earth, and so he was really gone, but they return him back in time, so it feels like nothing happened, but they messed up and he crashed. And so what David had is he had all the knowledge of all these, like Phalon, the planet that they went to, and all this stuff. Like he has all the information to go back and forth. And then, but when he gets sent back as a kid, he obviously loses that. He shouldn't remember that, but it's locked in his recesses of his brains. Then the spaceship crashes, and they lost like their charting data, of course, and so they need David's brain to fill in the gaps of how to get back home. So that's the main conceit of the story of Flight of the Navigator, which is why You're the Navigator becomes, the entire namesake of the movie.
Compliance.
That was that's a classic line that I had forgotten, actually. So it's classic, but it's been many decades. The documentary had everybody quoting it, like the people that worked on the film, much older now, and they're like, compliance, compliance. So if we can bring compliance in a fun way back in, I think compliance in 2025 isn't going to be as fun as it was back in the UFO Kids movie.
I was like, this kind of where it gets to the very kid movie in a sense of now we're just going to have fun navigating of David trying to get back home because he doesn't want to go back to NASA. He wants to get back to his parents and be done with this.
Yep. It is a very quick trip where it's weird because Max, the ship, like knows all this stuff, like knows how to go 20 miles up or left or right and stop exactly. But then it's like, well, how do we get back to Fort Lauderdale? And they're like, I don't know. Like, so they stop at Big Al's like gator farm, where a product of its time, guys. I am sorry to say that it is. He makes fun of him immediately for his weight. Max pops out and basically, fat shames him. And you're like, oh my God, maybe it would be created today, but it would be by a really tone-deaf studio. But this thing, you're like, oh, he's just fun. And Big Al's cool about it. He's like pretty chill, just like in awestruck. This farmer watching this spaceship land at his gator farm or whatever and fill up gas, quote unquote. So I appreciated Big Al, and I didn't like the jab at him, but 80s movie.
Do you think you'd be as oblivious as that family as well? Where, we're just going to go ahead and get our gas. Oh, look at the spaceship, not realizing that it's real, thinking, oh, it's just a fake spaceship, and I'm going to have my kids go take a picture with it, whatever's, it's just kind of a side road show prop or whatever you want to call it. I don't know.
Like an attraction, sideshow attraction. Yeah, I think they would be oblivious. Why? I think they would think it's fake. Why? Because you have no reason to believe it's real. So you would be like, oh, we're at a gator farm. We're doing a trip across. They're probably heading to Disney if they're in Florida. They're probably doing this like family thing, and to see it and then the kids are like messing with it. The dad's way too oblivious, I would say, because it almost at first doesn't seem like they even know it's there. And I'm like, well, that can't be the case. They parked next to it. But that's how they almost play it. The kids immediately know it, and they're just like, oh, this is cool. And that's when they like actually get to mess with the stairs, and they're like, oh, how did they make these stairs? Because they are floating in the sky, and this isn't CGI. Like, this is really well done. I would be more like Big Al, I think, and just kind of staring at it and not really communicating with the father, because this is the coolest thing I've ever seen.
But do you think from there on forward, Big Al is always questioning every single child? Is that one of them? Are they aliens? Are they all aliens?
Are we giving Big Al a lot of credit? I think, you know what? Maybe I'm not being fair to Big Al myself. Like, I don't think the dude running the gator farm is going to question too many things, but he's probably a huge conspiracy theorist. So maybe, man, I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth. So shit, I'm talking myself in and out of whether Big Al would actually trust a new kid every time he sees him at his gator farm. Maybe he just tries to feed the kids of the gators, because honestly, if everyone is an alien, you gotta see if it's really an alien.
There you go.
That's the follow-up to Flight of the Navigator, is the gator farm.
Where do these kids go missing?
Oh God, this is much darker than I intended it to be.
It got dark again.
We always go too dark on this show, I tell you. I did like that. This is why Big Al is awesome, though, is because at the end he said that he just wanted to phone home. I was like, that's so genius. That's such a genius ET line, where he's like, holy shit, because that's why he's just like, oh, I've seen this movie before, and this dude is doing exactly what ET wanted to do. Like, I love that toss away. So David gets on the phone and calls up Jeff, his brother, or he just calls home, and Jeff happens to answer it. But he's like, hey, I want to come home. And they're like, well, the police are here. And he's like, well, it's going to be dark, and I need a way to get you. So classic. It's almost like a Galaxy Quest ending, where they need a group at this other location to set off some sort of signal so that they can find their way back to that location without having a direct pinpoint or a GPS at the time or anything like that. And so Jeff has got him covered.
Yeah, Jeff does a good job. So, as we said at the beginning of the movie, it took place on July 4th. And this is what really is surprising. Did they really keep all of those fireworks from 8 years ago just for this moment?
Do you know what I have written on mine? Do you think fireworks that are sitting around for 8 years still work? So, if that answers your question, I don't think they would keep them around because they kept. I get keeping your kids like room around, but they moved from that house too, so you wouldn't keep his box of fireworks that were probably just the family's fireworks anyway.
Yeah, and on top of it, the parents are. If I was the parent, I'd be like, we're not keeping this. We're going to toss it. There's nothing that put it as a sentimental value to it.
No, it wasn't like David's favorite firework that he lights off every year. I questioned why they kept him, but you know what? Good thing they did because Jeff's a good older brother and / younger brother, and he immediately gets to it's getting dark out, and the FBI is there watching the house because they know he's trying to get home. So I mean, we're not great at recapping these movies, guys. We're sometimes we nail it and sometimes we jump all around, but so in the interim, when he takes the spaceship and they leave the facility, we didn't even get to them leaving the facility, but yeah, he escapes in the spaceship. Oh no. Guys, we're so sorry. It's been so long since we've done this. But they get into the spaceship and it takes off, and that's when he gets lost because Max is playing games, and he tells him like, well, this is the big shtick of like, I need to get home. And then they stop by like a cow farm, which is kind of fun, and he's yelling at him, and then the FBI's, or NASA I should say, is tracking him like they have the best GPS that's known to man, like way beyond what we have today. They're tracking him to everywhere he goes instantly, as fast as like they're going, like they're doing like light speed travel to get there. So this thing's capable of Machs and shit right at. But so then he's like this whole mission of that. And so this whole time they're trying to get David back, and they know he's going to try and get back home. And so that's why they go and hole up at the house where Sarah Jessica Parker's also there because she tipped them off. So long story short, they're getting back to the house, but they can't like just show up and just walk in the front door. So yeah, Jeff sets off the fireworks on the roof.
Yeah, and from there, that's when David sees the fireworks and he's like, that's it. That's where I got to go. And it gets him back to where he needs to be.
Yep, they land right outside the front door, and it's a heartbreaking scene because he sees all the police there, and he stands like outside of he kind of like pokes out or whatever outside of the UFO, and they're like, "Come on, David, come home." And he says, "I don't belong here." And it's like, to imagine like you think your kid died 8 years ago, you see him again, and then immediately he's like, I got to get on this UFO. Like, they're learning so much information about this world so quickly. And he gets up and just like, I got to go. And he leaves.
Yeah, it's one of those where, this is where being a time travel movie, it gets very convoluted of, does this time like stream still exist? Is this just a life that they have to live now? Or what about happens? Does it change everything and this never existed?
I think it all goes away. I think unless you're talking about like parallel timelines that can exist, right? Almost like, every movie that's come out since now. I think it's one timeline in my head that he goes back and he erases everything that happened. So you lose that cool older brother character because he's not going to be the same if he grows up with you. But I don't know. I think it's one timeline, but you could argue that there's two now.
Okay, that makes sense. But that is also one of the things we forgot to say of Max also stated, I can get you back to your time, but it's dangerous for you. There's no assurance that you're going to survive the journey back in time to your original time. And this is where David decides to take that leap and tell him, I don't belong here. This isn't my time. I'm not going to live a life that I'm going to enjoy because, yeah, he is going to be held under a microscope with NASA until they figure out what's making this happen for him.
Yeah, no, that's a good little note. We should be in there. Like that's where it gets really serious. Is that yeah, he's just going to be a science experiment. NASA is in this world super controlling and super in control of like every piece of the at least Florida. And yeah, he's just going to be prodded and poked until they figure out how he has access to this UFO and the fact that he has the star charts to all these galaxies. Like they can do everything with that information at that time, right? They can who knows what they can build with that technology or what is in his head or what they can find. They can probably figure out light speed travel immediately. So yeah, so the big decision is, do I take that risk? And David, being a kick-ass kid that he is, he decides, yeah, he's going to take that risk. And then we end up in what I like to think is the Bill and Ted's time travel stream. Like when they're going through, like it's always lightning and clouds and this like weird, like Tron-esque like looking in between world.
I mean, it's one of those, how do you depict something that has never happened before? And so it's always interesting to see how people create that. Either, oh, well, we've seen it in this movie. Let's see if we can kind of recreate that because people are familiar with that, or do we want to try something new?
Yeah, no, it's kind of fun because they all end up looking the same, but yeah, they have no idea. Like you're guessing. It's just like when Back to the Future guesses, what fashion's gonna look like and shit. Like no one has any idea, and that's why you got to set your movies like 2,000 years in the future so that it doesn't matter at all.
Yeah, it was only 8 years. What do you think is going to happen in 8 years? Look what happened in 3 years.
Dude, you talking about just our mental state, the world, or both?
All the above.
Okay, so both. Yep. Yeah, I feel like I've aged 100 years in the last 3 years. This pod may be proof of that. We'll find out. But yeah, back to Bill and Ted's time stream. They pop out of that, and he's back in the ravine. And that's kind of, I mean, then we get to wrap up the movie where he gets back out of the ravine and goes back up to what we hope is his original family home.
Yeah, and sigh of relief for him. It is. He gets to go back to his original life, knowing that everything has happened. But on top of it, he gets to keep the little creature.
Which, how does that work?
I don't know.
What's its lifespan?
It's going to create a whole other issue once that's discovered, because then he's back to square one of like, where did you get this? Where'd you find it?
It'll be the same doctor or whatever scientist at NASA that's like, yo, I found this fucking thing. He's like, no, I've already dealt with you about the UFO. What UFO? Oh, shit. Because David still has the psychic link to Max and the ship. So there is sequel territory there. They've talked about it for the last couple of decades of like they'll do a follow up, and they've actually talked about just rebooting it most recently, which is, but yeah, he's in my head and in the way the world is built in that movie. Yeah, he's still out there. Max is still flying around, so he could come back and visit the Navigator again.
Yeah, you got anything else to say on this?
Let me look back through my notes here. Let's see. We talked about Big Al, who was awesome. We talked about Pee Wee, who was awesome. We talked about Compliant, which is awesome. Oh, they make the joke that you only use 10% of your brain, and so we stuffed the rest of it with star charts. I thought that was pretty funny. It's like, yeah, you guys had room.
Yeah.
So let's see. I had some fun facts for the end of this. So... Well, I'll start with a not so fun fact at the beginning, and it is the 2020's Life After the Navigator documentary, which you can get on Tubi for free. So cool, enjoy that. It chronicles Joey Kramer, who played David, his journey after starring in it, his post-teen and adult life. He became homeless, led to crime, big-time drug addict, and it was just like man, it just wrecks you. Like I obviously, I did some tearing up. I'm not afraid to admit it. So basically, it goes into his 2016 incarceration at age 42 in connection with a bank robbery because he was just like in and out of jail so often that it became like a cycle of like, how else do I live? So he went and did that and got put back away. But then it like, to get to that point, like his dad was just a huge piece of shit. Like David was introduced to coke at like 14, 15, Grand Theft Auto at 18. He was bullied, he'd self-harm, did all the drugs, like I said. And so he's in and out of this like between Guthrie and Nanamo. I butchered that one. Correctional therapeutic centers, where he, basically got clean and like would relapse, but then got clean, and eventually I think it's been a few years now. I didn't check in, like one of those, you don't want to check in years later because like, oh shit, what if he relapsed again? You don't want to you want to end on a high note, because the movie does end on that, where he's been clean for a while. He's actually an alumni of that therapeutic center where he goes back in and talks to the people that are actually serving there, and like helps them, and kind of again like just kind of details how he left Hollywood so he could be a kid again. And then that's kind of why he didn't start showing up in other movies, because he's like, dude, I could have been in all these big movies and I just chose not to be. And he was like a background actor in like Flight of the the movie we're watching. What was like the Never-Ending Story and things like that. And that was just kind of, I don't know, just kind of cool to see all of that. And he just seems like such a great guy. And he's trying to get back into acting. So, if you're going to do a sequel, put him back in there as the Navigator. He can still act. He's still got it. So.
Yeah, the fun fact was not so fun. It was kind of sad, but a good ending to it of like, oh, he's turned his life around and gotten on a better track.
Yeah, he just went through hell. They talk about like being a young kid, and it's just, as an actor, it just never really works out because you're introduced to stuff so early than you ever should be, and then you get there was a line that one of them said. I think, did I write it down? They said, oh my gosh, guys, I wrote it down and I don't remember what it is. This is my organization here. But basically, you're typecast as a kid, and then you grow out of being a kid. And it's like, that's so real, because everybody then only wants to cast that kid, but you can't literally be that one anymore. And so then you get lost in this world of like, who am I and what should I do? And so yeah, it was just like a long, like decades of, struggle. And now he's got his, life back around at the end of the movie just a number of years ago. And so, yeah, I hope he's still doing good. But so for actual fun facts, so Joaquin Phoenix auditioned for the role of David. So did Chris O'Donnell, who played Robin in Batman and Robin fame and other movies. Nate, you'll be very happy to know that Alan Silvestri did the soundtrack, who also did like all of Robert Zemeckis' films, including Back to the Future film series. He did Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Forrest Gump, Contact, Castaway, Predator, The Abyss, The Mummy Returns, and he did Infinity War and Endgame. Like, this dude's prolific.
Yep.
And the ship morphing back and forth into different like speeds and stuff came from a Tide commercial where the jug of Tide turned into like a map, and they said, well, that looks cool, can we do that? And they used that technology for the ship, and then created reflection mapping so you can see like the clouds and everything like that. And this is one of the cool facts about this movie, is that James Cameron actually modeled the Terminator 2 villain, like the liquid metal one, after that, because he said, holy shit, we can do that, I can do that too then, like that's what I'll do. So we might not have had the metal transformer villain in 2 if not for Flight of the Navigator.
Damn, that's awesome. Well, I guess with that, we'll let you guys know what we're doing next week, since we're kind of changing the format up a little bit. So next week we're going to be doing our topics, and the 2 topics we're going over is going to be navigation and NASA.
2 very exciting topics, folks, and we hope you'll tune in for those as we spout out facts and talk about them and are a little bit more organized week after week. This is our promise to you. This is our promise as 2 amateur podcasters that somehow have 140 hours under their belt. I don't even know how to explain what happened tonight, guys. There's been Wi-Fi issues, and we're doing it digitally, and it's been rusty. So you know what? Bear with us. We'll work with us together here.
It's because it's a full moon. That's why. That's the issue.
Is it a full moon?
It is.
Oh shit! I didn't know that. So are all the emergency rooms busy? Are people having children?
Probably. Who knows?
Isn't that the whole thing?
Usually, yeah. A full moon brings out the crazies.
And the children. Everybody goes into labor. Anywho, I think maybe that's an old wives' tale. But yes, next week is topics week, and then we will decide on the next movie and let you know then. But until then, Nate, until next week, is there anything they should be watching? Any recommendations?
Todd's really gonna love this recommendation.
Oh
He's
boy, here we go.
hasn't watched it himself. He's saving it for a rainy day. But I'll recommend an anime. I'll recommend Dan to Dan.
I've heard of what, Turbo Grandma?
Turbo Granny.
Turbo Granny. That's right. That's right. Yeah, I've only heard bits and pieces from you and others, and it sounds like the most insane goddamn thing I've ever heard of. I don't even remember the line, but it blows my mind every time I'm. What's the famous Turbo Granny line?
It is, I will let you suck on my teat if I can gobble that dong.
Oh my, that's the first thing I heard about this goddamn Dan to Dan anime, and I went, oh, I ain't watching that one. You'd think you would actually talk me into it. No, I think you guys seem to love it. There's other creators I've seen talking about it, like on YouTube, and I'm like, okay, people like this show. I just can't imagine a Turbo Granny. But let's see, what should people watch? Or it's not really just a watch thing, right? They should be playing video games. Okay, now if you don't play video games, well, what's stopping you? It's cool now. Be a nerd with us. But I recently played the Hades series, and I think it's a great entry level game, even though it can be very challenging as you get into it. But it's a roguelike, which means every time you play it, it almost like starts from scratch, even though you kind of like earn things along the way to make each run that you're doing better. And it's just a really cool story, and you're just you're in the world of the Greek gods, and you're trying to fight your way to uncover what's going on with your heritage and everything. I think they're just really good games, and Hades 2 is even better than number 1, and that's hard to beat. So yeah, I would say play video games, but if you're going to play them, play Hades 2. Try that one.
All right, that sounds good. With that, I guess we will try to work through this sign-off as we get back in the groove of these episodes. So yes, if you could like, share, subscribe, and whatever else people recommend when they're doing these things.
That was a big sigh, dude. You're living the podcast. You're living it right now. You know what's sign of a good podcast you should listen to every week? People running out of steam as they're telling you to listen to it and follow us on things.
It's more of just me trying to remember what did we say in this moment.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. So follow us at The End of Sci on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Like I said, at the return to this great old bot in the sky is tell your friends, tell your family, tell your loved ones, and tell the ones you hate. Because any listen's a good listen to us. If you're like, that was an unbearable review, what are you doing? You know what? Tell your enemies to listen to it. Maybe they'll listen longer. I don't know. But yeah, say hi, leave a review, rate, and subscribe, all that good stuff.
All right. Well, with that, I guess see you later, Navigator.
Oh, that's good. Compliance? Is it compliance or comply? Which one is it? I've already fucked it up. Is it compliance?
Compliance.
Oh, I think
compliance.
I used a hard T on that one. Compliance, and it's fucking Candyland, so goodbye.